everybody. It's Lorraine Hughes, and I'm here in Adelaide in South Australia. And I've got Michelle McDonald with me today. And Michelle has graciously, wonderfully, tenaciously accepted the invitation to come to Adelaide and facilitate some Joy of Business classes. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Lorraine. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so excited about Adelaide. It's just been in my awareness for so long.
So we were chatting just before about being a futurist and how that can sometimes play out. So when you become aware that you're a futurist, what are the kinds of questions that you ask?
So really the basic question is,
especially when you come up against roadblocks.
Yeah, and the one clear indication that you are a futurist is when you are hitting those roadblocks and you start to become frustrated, and it's like, okay, is this for now or is this for the future? And if it's for now, you're okay, who do I need to contact? Who do I need to speak to? Does something need to change? And if it's for the future, then write it down or put in your ideas, wherever you're saving your ideas, whether it's a book or on notes on your computer. And then you can say, could you tap in and let me know when it's time?
Yeah. So for the people that aren't so familiar with Access Consciousness, because you're a Access Consciousness facilitator, which is an absolutely incredible modality. It's one that I play with every single day. And it is no longer just something I play with. It's pretty much my way of life. And I'm so grateful. It makes things move really, really fast and has taken me from that space of being really miserable and unhappy with my life and my living to creating so much more and being able to play with incredible people like you. But for people who are not familiar with Access Consciousness, how do you know if it's for now or for later?
Great question. And I'm just looking at that because I'm just so used to just jumping into the knowing. For me, it's like, how do I know if it's for now or if it's for later? If it feels expansive, it's for now. When I ask, is this for now? And it feels expansive. Or if it feels contractive, that's when I get, okay, no, now's not the time. Also, sometimes it's even not a feeling in my body or a knowing. It's sometimes I get a yes, no in my head. So quite often will even have that answer before I've even finished the question.
Wow. That is great. Yeah. We have lots and lots of tools that we play with in Access Consciousness, and being able to tap into the awareness is just such a gift, because I don't know about you, but growing up, I had these awarenesses and they were totally negated by the people around me, which is fabulous. Thanks, guys. But these tools, and this is where I'm actually going to tap into the Joy of Business, which is another sort of offshoot of Access Consciousness. And it was created by an amazing woman called Simone Milasas. And she, if I remember correctly, she was sitting there with Gary Douglas one day and she was talking about business being joyful. And he's like, that's a bit different. Not many people see business as being joyful. So could you talk some more about how you find business joyful?
Oh my gosh. So I was fortunate enough 5 years ago, Gary Douglas came to Melbourne and they were doing that meet and greet for Money's Not the Problem, You Are book. And Simone Milasas did a Joy of Business taster at that. Now, one of my business mentors had just introduced me to Access. She just asked me a question. She's like, you seem to be stuck in expectation. And because I was doing everything. I was following the formula that everyone else was doing, and it wasn't working for me. And I kept having roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. I kept making myself wrong all the time. That why is it working for everyone else? Why isn't it working for me? And so she encouraged me to ask a question in Simone's taster. And oh my God, like she totally flipped my reality 360 degrees. Like I couldn't even speak. She was halfway through giving me the answer, and by the time we got to the end of it, I didn't even know what I had asked, and she had fried my brain that much. And I was fortunate. I actually did record it. Like before I got to ask, I just recorded it, and then so like that, I purchased her book in in CD format, and I just got that all of these simple tools and processes, once I started applying them in my business, just changed my reality, my business reality. And for me, it created more ease. I stepped out of that expectation, judgment, and conclusion. I mean, I was the harshest critic on myself. Like, people would be like, oh, don't worry about it, Michelle. And I'm like, and I would beat myself up. What do we say? We beat ourselves up over bush. So I would literally beat myself up. And once I started, using the tools of Access and Joy Business, I stopped beating myself up. I started to get happy. Like it's just like, I wasn't attached to the outcome. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. And it gave me more information to choose again and follow the energy. And that's, for me, that's what the joy of business is to me. Like if you can create your life and your business, and your business is whatever you do, whether you are in business, whether you work in someone else's business, whether you are studying, whether you are caring for family members, be it whether they're children or older family members, your life is your business. And like, why wouldn't you create it and to have it the most joyful and expansive thing possible, to create your life and your living? Otherwise, it just, what's the point of, if it's not fun, what's the point of it?
So true. Thank you so much for that insight. That was fabulous. And for me, I've played with the Joy of Business classes a wee bit. I've done the old version.
Yeah, you've done it twice, haven't you?
Twice, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky. And I did it very quickly, one after the other, but it was like within a couple of months, and it totally shifted and changed how I view business. And I got out of the judgment of how I do business as well, which was huge to realize that, holy crap, I don't have to do business anybody else's way.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Your way.
Yeah. Doing business your way.
And what works for you, because unless you are in, like, actually I heard something recently. It was about who was a life coach, and he's a twin. But it's like, even like, unless you are in the same skin, you have walked the same path, you have the same mindset, no two people are alike, even if you're a twin. So everyone's experiences are unique. So, that proven formula and that success formula, some pieces may work because some may resonate with you, but the rest, it's like it's for you to create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love being one of those people who can mush a bunch of different stuff together. I've always been like that. It's like I take a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and I just play with it all, and it's like this big, huge confetti of awesomeness.
And you also don't have a point of view about how that's going to look, and it doesn't matter if there's a bit from here and a bit from there. It's like, like for you, Lorraine, are you following the energy going, okay, that piece, that's going to work for that, and that piece, that's going to work for that piece over there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I don't follow that awareness, it generally goes to shit.
So when it goes to shit for you, what is that? So if you explain that for someone who doesn't know what that is.
So when it goes to shit, it's like what we were talking about before with the roadblocks could be that as part of it. It could be that you lose a bunch of money. It could be that, say, you set up a class or a seminar and nobody turns up, and it's and it's like, if you haven't asked all those questions that we love to ask about creating classes, if you haven't asked that and you haven't got those all that awareness, cognitive awareness, that's when it can go to shit. And
is it that pushing energy, like you feel like you're forever pushing and it's a struggle?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that element that we were talking about earlier of competition, like when you're in competition, there's just so much push and struggle, and people find you quite, what's the word I'm looking for there? They can't relate. Like there's not that genuine, that
it's
warmth.
incongruent.
Thank you, the incongruency. Thank you. I knew we'd get there eventually. Get all the way around it. We get there. It's incongruent between what you're really desiring to create and what's the actual energy there. Wow.
Yeah.
And the most fascinating thing is when you realize when you're in competition or when you're not, and when you're aware of other people being in competition, and how much it completely makes things so contracted and limited, especially in our world, in the world of energy and creating, and it's, how do you find applying the principles of energy and consciousness to business versus the old way of thinking and being? Like there's quite a different point of view.
Yeah. The traditional
kind of
way.
like you used to do business versus how you do business now.
Yeah. So the traditional way of doing business is I would just go look at something and go, okay, I want to do this. This is what it's going to look like. I have these spots in my calendar, so I'm going to schedule that here. And now how do I get out there and promote this to everyone? Like how do I, and it's that sales and marketing. Now, the way that I do business now is, first of all, I say to my business, hi, how are you? Would you like to play?
Is it entity of its own and it's got a voice of its own?
It does, and it's your, I like to call it your co-collaborator, your co-creator. It it has its own energy that it would like to contribute, and you can both contribute to each other. So now when I create, it's like, and this is where we had the discussion before about being a futurist, because I'm very much, I get like, it's like a tap on the shoulder. It's like, hey, Michelle, I really see that this class would like to happen. And it's just like, okay. And if you go into the right, okay, let's do this, without going, is this for now or is this for later? If I think it's for now, but it's actually for later, I start getting like, I get frustrated because I'll get roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And when I go, okay, is this for later? I'm like, okay, great. I'm just going to make a note of that. Let me know when you're ready, like when is the time to actualize, and then I'll just continue with what I'm doing. When I'm looking at whether it's a class or a call or just something that's like in person, then I'm like, okay, business, what would you like to do? What would this look like? And get the energy of what the class desires to be, and often when you have a creation, it then gets, because it's its own separate entity, it collects its own energy and starts, generating that, I guess, almost that steam as it heads off, and it goes away and even builds more energy. And when we feel things pull away from us, we actually think that, oh, it's died, it's left us. But in actual fact, it's going off doing and creating more and actualizing more. And then it's on its way back to you. And usually when we give up and kill the creation, is like, it's about 2 steps from actually like coming into fruition, and all of it just falling, with ease with what's to happen. And so I like to tap into that and go, okay, what's required? And so now it's like and like, we used to do business like really linear, like you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this. And what happens now is, like, for you and I, when we were creating this class, like, we've tapped in a number of times, but even a couple of months ago, and it's just like, hey, what do you get? Is now the time to do this? And we get, yep. And then the energy shifts. And then it's just like, and then we tap back in and we're like, okay, now is the next bit to move. It's like, I didn't know Lorraine's about to go on holidays for a couple of weeks. And it's just like, but I had the awareness of, you need to tap into her now and shift this and do this little portion, because sometimes you need to do a bit over here that will start creating something else that it will then go away, and it comes back, and then it asks for a piece at the other end. And that's where, and the other thing that I love about Joy Business is you don't actually remove your energy from all of your projects, as they go off and they do all their various parts. You can have an awareness over everything without actually having to be in it all the time. And for me, that created a lot more space once I became aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the same for me too. When I read that in the manuals, and I'm like, oh wow. Oh wow. And it changed so much for the people I was connecting with, and I was being a virtual administrative assistant with too. Because they would go, because I had that point of view that when I was with, say, my care clients, that I had to be with them. And my virtual admin people would be like, where did Lorraine go? Like, energetically, I left the building, totally cut myself off. So when I realized, when I got that piece of information about you don't have to disconnect, it's like, oh, wow, okay. Shit, I can actually be a contribution all the time, and it doesn't take any effort. That's the other thing that really surprised me, is that by having my barriers down and being willing to be a contribution all the time wherever I was required, was so much more ease than disconnecting and then reconnecting, and then dealing with the fallout of the disconnection reconnection time.
Yeah. And it creates more space for you too. Like, you think that even though you are across all these different things, that it's going to take up a lot of your time and everything. In actual fact, it's the opposite, because those things it's that ebb and flow, as they flow in and out and let you know where they are. You just have more space and for yourself, for your creations, for actualizing them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's that willingness to be aware of what is required in any moment. It's like what you were saying, how even doing these classes for Adelaide, it's like we did a little bit a couple of months ago, and then we did a little bit, like a week or two ago, and then it's like yesterday we did a big bunch yesterday, and it was like, following the awareness of what's actually required and when the classes are ready to go. Because they know, the businesses know, the land knows, Adelaide knows.
Yeah. And when I did the classes in Umea, like, here's a perfect example. Like, so I don't speak French, But I was asked to go over and do some Joy of Business classes over there. So I had to line up a host, a venue, a translator, and all of that. And we just all tapped in and went, yep, we can all do that weekend. It just went, and it just felt so expansive. And then it just like everything just flowed. And then in the instances where I was doing control, because we all do that just a little bit, I was like, okay, and it was more about, okay, there's an energy here that's required that I'm not able to contribute. And once I got that and pulled someone else in, it was like, then it just went to the next level. It just expanded again. And that's what I love about creating with the tools of Joy Business, that ease that it can create, that it's not like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and you've got to do that. It's just like, okay, where are we now? What are you asking for? You know, what would you like me to tap into today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the classes that we're doing in Adelaide, I'm so excited. September, we've got, have you got the dates in front of you?
I know them. I think it's Thursday the 13th. We are going to do a Joy of Business taster, so an introduction. So if you're unsure and you would like to check it out, that is a great way to become accustomed to the tools and see how you are already applying those in your everyday life, but how you can really tweak them and maximize it. On Friday the 14th, we're doing a Joy of Business specialty class, which is creating your own financial reality. And what I love about this class is that you get, I'm going to say, brutally honest with what you require, what your business requires. And once you know that, then it's easy for the money to show up because there's that confusion's been removed. And so we're doing that on the Friday, and that is, oh my gosh, when I did these two classes together with the business and money so we're going to do business and money on Saturday the 15th, like that's already like the precursor that when you step into business and money, it just takes it to the next level. And that's a 1-day class, and that's where you really look at what does business mean to you, and what do you mean to business, and like what does money mean to you, and what does business and money mean, and what are they supposed to deliver, and all your points of view that you have around that. And you get to identify what's no longer working for you, and when you know that, change it. If it's not working, change it without a point of view. That's what I love about it. So they are the 3 things that popped when we were doing this creation. Yeah.
So cool. And there's so many people in Adelaide that I get are really after something different and a different way of looking at business that's not like anybody else's. Just saying.
I love because it gets you out of the box. You really like step out of, like, if you don't have to create, business in your life the way you should, the way your family says you should, the way society says you should, the way your workplace says you should, I would just say, just throw that all away. And if you could then start creating and choosing and actualizing your life your way, what would you choose? What would be fun for you? And do it every 10 seconds. So you actually don't get stuck into it. So here's a tip. So often we turn a choice into a decision. And because we've chosen it, we think that we then have to follow through with it, even when it's no longer working. So later on, when you start and it feels expansive to start doing it this way, and then the energy shifts and you're like, okay, that's not really working. But because I said I was going to do this, I've got to see it through. Whereas I know when we did the classes in UMEA, we changed the name of the class a couple of days out. The minute we changed the energy on the class, people signed up. Now, the class was exactly the same because the questions that got asked related to the first title, but people couldn't receive the first title. But I didn't have a point of view about changing it. It's just like, okay, what energy is required here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the ability to shift and change to be whatever is required at the time. It's such a huge gift. So we'll have all of the links for the classes around this video somewhere, up, down, sideways, I don't know, somewhere.
Whatever.
Vogue, you know. Get back into the 90s with Madonna. Let's go. And I'm so looking forward to having Michelle up here in September. How did we get so jolly lucky to be here in Adelaide and have this incredible facilitator? If I remember correctly, Michelle is actually probably our very first Joy of Business Creator certified facilitator here in Adelaide. So we are so lucky. And yes, Adelaide, you are absolutely ready for it. And let's see what else we can create with multiple businesses throughout Adelaide to create businesses from a completely different way, to have the energy of authenticity, of connection, of oneness and communion and contribution throughout the whole of Adelaide, gifting and receiving to the earth and to each other every moment of the day. That's my aim. That's my goal for bringing these classes to Adelaide in all sorts of different shapes and forms.